Hello. How are you? This is Els coming from Bemis Crafty Corner, and I have a project for us today. The project I have for us today are these. So we all know I can't do a cluster, so but we're going to be doing this right here, these parts right here, and it looks like this. And you can do this. You can do this in red and make it look like a faux wax seal. You can do it just to get the image that you have here that you can use to make ephemeras and things to put in your journals. And so I'm going to take you through doing these today, and I'm going to get everything out. I'll be right back. Supply list. First and foremost, you're going to want some stamps. You can use acrylics with these, but I think that the wood block works better. And I picked these up over at Michael's. I think it was like $1 or $2 in the bins at the front of the store. So we have some of those stamps. We have some paints. If you have one of these micro mist bottles, you can certainly use that. If not, you can just use a brush. A palette, you may want a palette. You're going to want some paint brushes, some scissors, a towel to wipe your brushes off, and you're going to want your stylus. If you don't have a stylus, just use the back end of a paintbrush. And then, most importantly, toilet paper. Okay, this is the really fancy Walmart extra soft mega roll. Okay, toilet paper, it's important on this one. And you're going to want a bottle of water, a spray bottle preferably. If you don't have one, that's fine. You can just use a brush with, you know, a thing of water. So I'm going to clear this off of here, and we're going to come back and talk about how these are made, and I'll be right back. So for the littler stamps, I just use a one sheet, you know, one square. And I fold it in half, and then I fold it into thirds. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to press it down on top of my rubber stamp, and then I'm just going to add water. And I'm going to get this fairly wet. And then I'm going to take my stylus and I'm just going to kind of trace around it. And if I need a little more, I can add a little more water, okay? All right, so now that I've got this kind of traced around and I have the image, there's some little dots here in the middle, so I want to add those. So I'm going to just kind of tap it a little bit with the small end of my stylus. And I'm going to set this to the side and let it dry. Now that takes about 30 minutes or so. If you can put it outside in the sun, it takes about 10 minutes. For the larger ones, I'm going to use 2 squares, fold them in half, and fold it in half again. Same thing, just going to put it on top here, hold it in the center, and get it wet. Now, same thing, go around. Now let's say I want to maybe I want to do this with a little bit of color. We're going to talk about that too. If I want to add a little bit of color here, I can do that with a paintbrush. Or we can do that with our misting bottle. So let me go ahead and get these other 2 stamps out here so we can take a look at that. So if I want to do like this, and I want to do it with a color, I'm going to take my paper like I normally would, and I'm going to fold it. And then I'm going to get my little palette out here, and I'm going to get some paint. And I'm just going to put like 1 or 2 drops of paint in here. Now, if you have inks, use your inks, okay? If you do not, then, you know, paint will work. So we've watered the paint down, and I'm just going to kind of blend it around there. Okay? I'm going to put this on, and then I'm going to apply this to the back. And if it's too thick, I'll just add more water. And all I want to do is just kind of put this on. And I want to saturate the paper. Once I have the paper pretty well saturated all the way through, now you could, if you wanted to, you could do it this way, you know, and put it down this way. But what I find is that if you do that, you're going to get paint on there. And unless you dry that right away, it's not going to work. So I have paint on here. Now I'm going to wet it with the water, and I'm going to begin to tap this down. Again, I'm going to use my stylus to make sure that I get, you know, all the corners and all of that. Here we go. Okay, and then I'm going to set that aside and let it dry. Alright, so one more technique that we can do, and that is this one right here. Again, this is a small one, so one square in half, folded in thirds, right on the top. This is a little bit of water in a mister with about a drop and a half of paint. Just going to get this wet. Okay? Press, 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 press. Press in the center. Go around my edges. Alright. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these dry, and then I'll be back and we will see what they look like. Here's the 4 pieces that we did, okay? This is the green one. And you can see it just lets a little bit of the green through. Just a little teeny bit right there. This is the pink one that we did with the sprayer. And you can see it lets a lot of the color through. And then these are the 2 that we did that we just did plain, okay? And this is what they look like when they dry. So, let's get these cut out of here, just so we can kind of see the images a little bit better. Okay. Alright. So that's the first one. As you can see, it's got like some details to it. Like you can see the center here, and you can't see them very well, but there are some lines in there from the original piece. This one, let's cut this one cut out. And this one you can see in the center here. This is the one that had the little dots. And the little dots are right there. Perfectly pressed. And I know you guys can't see this, but you will when I paint it. This is the larger one. You can see it's got the center piece here, and it also has all the veining in the petals. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one. Cut this one out a little bit wider. Now, if you want, for a little added security, you can add a little bit of glue to your water. Just regular Elmer's glue will work. Okay, this is the green one. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one around as well. And so you can see this one. You can see it's got just a little bit of the green coming through right in here, and it's got all the petals, and it's ready to be done. Now, to do these, I like to paint them. So I have some paint, and you don't need a lot here. This is literally minimal amounts of paint. So I have some blue. This is aquamarine, and I'm going to do some aquamarine on this one, and I need to do some color in the center, so I'll use this yellow ochre for that, yellow ochre. So I'm going to shake that up, and I'm just going to use what's in the lid. It's that easy. Get a brush here, and I'm going to do those little dots in the center of this one. Let me bring the camera down. Alright, let's see. So I have a tiny little brush here with a teeny tiny amount of paint on it, and I'm just going to tap the paint onto the little dots. Go. So now I have my little dots painted. See, now you can see them. I'm going to set that aside, let it dry for a second, and then we'll do this one with a little bit of green in the background. Again, I'm going to put the center in here, and all I have to do is just follow the lines that are already there. So get the center on that one, we'll get the center on this one. And I'm using a tiny little brush because this is very detailed. Alright, let me have that one done, and then we're going to do the little red one too. I'm just going to tap in a little bit of that yellow ochre right there in the center, just to bring it up. And then we'll go ahead and put the brush in the water, and we'll close this one up. So now let's paint this little guy. Alright, open the paint, shake it up a little more. Okay. Now this is a number 3, and so I'm just going to pick up a little bit of paint, just a little bit. Let me get this up here. Now I want to keep my hands dry, because if I get too much water on this, it could lose its form. So I'm going to just start little bits of paint. I'm not going to put a lot on here, okay? And I'm working from the outside in on this first coat. We're just going to kind of follow our pattern around. just like that. And then I'm going to set that one down. And we're going to move on to the next one. And I think we're going to do this big one right here. So I'm going to shake up my paint. And this is it says it's pale daffodil, but it's just a really nice buttery yellow color. And again, I'm going to come in from the outside in. And I'm using a very dry brush here, not a lot of paint at all, okay? A little bit more right in there. I'm going to let that one dry. So our first coat has dried. So now we're going to work on our second. And we'll start with this one. So I have this here. This is Bahama Blue. And it's just a slightly different shade than the blue that I originally used on here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to now start at the center, and I'm going to work it out. Just a tone lighter. Just a tone, okay? I know these are really hard to see. I'll try to put some better photos of them at the end of the video so that you can actually see what they look like. And then we're going to go ahead and do the yellow one. Now for this one I have bright yellow. Which is a richer, brighter color than the one that we already have on here. And for this one, we're just going to kind of blend it out a little bit here and there. We're going to go a little further on this one because this one has some really great vein detailing. So I'm going to go back in. I'm going to get my tiny little brush back out and that yellow ochre. And I'm going to work on some of these veins. Just because I kind of want them to stand out a little bit. So paint these in. Now, if you don't want to color them, you just want them to stay the way they are. Well, you can take one, cut it out. You can tear this if you want to. Around, right? You can ink this in any color that you want. Ink right across the front of it to pick up details and highlights, and it works perfectly just like that. I know, showing the camera doesn't do it any good. Okay, now the other thing that you can do is if you want to, and this is this flower right here, if you want to, you can cut this using tiny little scissors right up to that edge. So we'll come in and we'll start to cut this off, and we're just going to follow the flower around. Not the whole stamp, just the flower part. So we're cutting out each individual petal. Or, you know, whatever it is that you've made yours out of. And that's the beauty of this. You could do this out of a musical note if you wanted to, or you could do it out of flowers, or you could do it out of an animal, or maybe you want to do it out of a letter, like a monogram. You could do a monogram with this. Absolutely. And then you can just, you know, decorate it any way you want. Now, if you want it to look like an actual wax seal, I recommend using very dark red inks. Okay, so as you can see, when you cut that out in that way, it kind of pops the edge up a little bit. I know you guys can't really see, but it does pop the edge up a little bit. So you could paint that any way you want it to, or decorate it any way that you want, and then add it to a project. So this is just a quick and easy way for you to be able to make your own kind of little seals, per se, and add a little something extra to your crafts. All right, that's it. Listen, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that red button for me and subscribe, like me, ring my bell, and share me with all your friends, and then your friends can be my friends, and my friends can be your friends, and our friends can get to be friends. And before you know it, we have a giant crafting community. Look for the pictures of the finished pieces at the end of the video. Till next time, stay well. Bye-bye.